Commanders hire Dan Quinn to match with their new general manager, Adam Peters, to lead this franchise into the future.
The way that we live is not for everybody, okay? It's not, all right? Because we're going to run and put our bodies on people in a violent manner.
Whether the team is giving us the highest of highs or the blues to blues, we're covered all here on Commanders Nightly News. I, of course, am your host, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Let's get to tonight's lead story. So we heard from both coordinators today, and one of those press conferences I thought was very telling about a discussion that we were having actively as a fan base over the last 3 weeks or so, particularly during this 2-game losing streak. We'll talk about what was said by both coordinators a little bit later on in the show, but I want to really focus in on one specific piece of information that was given to us today by Offensive Coordinator Kliff Kingsbury. Now, the topic at hand and the one that we're going to discuss here to start this show off is that of Jayden Daniels and his health. It was hotly debated as to what the status of his ribs and his oblique area was. After that Eagles game, a lot of people wanted to point to his ribs as the cause for the poor play against the Eagles. He was skipping passes. He was inaccurate. He didn't look comfortable. And after the game, that was the low-hanging fruit. It was there to be picked, and a lot of people used that opportunity to say, you know what, he's not healthy. There's no other explanation for a guy that had been pinpoint accurate. There had been tons of mustard on the football. The arm talent was never within question. To see this guy skipping passes left and right, being inaccurate, indecisive, it's got to be the ribs, right? Can't be anything else. And after the game, both Jayden Daniels and head coach Dan Quinn were in straight denial about his injury being a part of the issue. Like, DQ was as adamant as we've heard him be on any topic this season about Jayden's health after the game. He said his health has been improving every week. That is not an issue right now. And I told you after the game that I didn't think that his health was in question because I said they were running him as a runner, and they actively avoided using him as a run threat post-injury. He was not used as a runner against Chicago. He was not used as a runner against the Giants. He was not used as a runner against the Steelers. They saved that for the Philadelphia game, in which that made me believe he's finally getting healthy enough to where they feel comfortable to unleash him once again as a runner. Now, it wasn't very successful for whatever reason, but he was utilized as a runner, including the 4th down that didn't work, where it was going to be a quarterback sweep. They used him on quarterback draw twice. Again, these are things that they had avoided since the injury versus Carolina in week 7. So it led me to believe that he was healthy, and I believed DQ when he said health is not an issue here, and when Jayden said, I'm fine, that's what he's supposed to say, but I actually think he is fine, right? So then we get to the podium today with Kliff Kingsbury. Hadn't heard from him in 2 weeks, obviously with the short week last week. We hadn't heard from him since, after the Giants win heading into the Steelers game. So, we'll get into everything that was said, but the part that I want to focus in on is he talked about Jayden being a warrior, talked about Jayden, gutting it out and battling through his situation, and his teammates definitely respect him, having seen what he was going through. So these are all statements that you piece together from Kliff Kingsbury, and it gives you a window into what Jayden was going through. He was, in fact, injured, and we knew that, right? But here was the final piece to that puzzle. He was asked specifically, was Kliff Kingsbury, did they alter the play calling at all to adjust it to where Jayden was from a health standpoint? And he said, I'm not going to get into that, right? But that told us all we needed to know, because we knew that and I talked about this ad nauseum, that they're not using him as a runner. And that's telling you that they don't want to put him in a compromising position. That limits our offense, by the way. His legs and the threat of him running is something that defenses have to, adjust and worry about. And if that threat is taken away, it does stifle our run game to a degree. We still have been very successful running the football, despite him not being as big of a threat. But when he is a threat in the run game, it makes the run game that much harder to contend. It makes him that much harder to keep in the pocket. It makes defenses have to be a lot more alert and aware of what he could do. The RPO game is that much more dangerous. There's so many different factors that come off of his legs and the threat of them. And not having that for almost a full month was definitely a big deal. And just hearing Kliff Kingsbury say what he said at the press conference today leads me to believe that the injury was a factor. And we know that. We saw it. We've watched his decline post-injury, but we've also been hearing about how little practice time they've had, and I also think that's a big factor, and we'll talk more about that today on the show. But I think he's fully healthy now. Kliff even said, but that's behind us now, essentially. So I think we're going to see Jayden unleashed again. This man has not had a rushing touchdown since week 4. Understand that his legs have not been prevalent. He had that big run against Carolina in week 7 that he got injured on. He was just getting revved up with his legs, and then they were taken from him in terms of our ability to call plays utilizing him as a threat in the run game. And so now we saw that come back against Philadelphia, even though it was unsuccessful. I think they'll be better in how they scheme it up. I think he'll be more willing to keep the read option, the zone read, whatever you want to call it. And if guys crash down on the edge, he'll be willing to keep it and take it. And he'll be a threat in the red zone again to run and all of that stuff. I think we'll start to see him become more of the player that he was earlier in the season than the one that has, kind of slipped a little bit and allowed a guy like Bo Nix to enter his name into the Offensive Rookie of the Year conversation. So we'll talk more about what Kliff Kingsbury had to say because I thought it was a very enlightening press conference. Same with Joe Whitt Jr. As a matter of fact, let's go to In Other News where we'll hear or we'll at least discuss and react to what was said by both coordinators as they step to the podium today. But before we do that, as we always do, let's get a look at both the injury reports for each team heading into week number 12's contest, starting with the good guys as we go into Thursday. And I don't like surprises on the injury report. You guys know that. And there is a surprise. Dante Fowler Jr. showed up with a hip. I don't like it, right? Now, it's limited. It's not DMP, but I don't like surprises. Surprises are never a good thing on the injury report. The only thing that can be a surprise is if a guy who hasn't practiced all week all of a sudden is full, but that's rare. And even if that happens, he's on the injury report, so anything can happen, right? I don't like surprises on Thursdays or Fridays, okay? I don't like surprises on Wednesdays, okay? So I'll start there. But Nick Bellore, this was a pleasant surprise. He practiced on Thursday after not practicing yesterday. I told you Thursday is the day, right? That's the day when you really determine if a guy's going to probably be able to go or not. And Nick Bellore practicing on a limited basis gives me confidence that he may be available for us on Sunday. We missed him last week against Philadelphia. I don't want them kicking the ball to Kevontae Turpin anyway. I think that knowing this group, they're going to be bullheaded and they're going to trust their special teams unit. And they're going to say, hey, we got dogs and we can go cover. And I think it's a foolish move. I think you should just kick the ball out of the end zone this week. Let the Cowboys start at the 30. And if you believe in your defense, they should be able to stop Cooper Rush from driving the football 70 yards in that offense. What I don't want is Kevontae Turpin touching it 4 or 5 times in the kickoff game and having a chance to impact the game that way. But I think we're going to give him a chance. I truly believe that. And if we're going to give him a chance, we need Nick Bellore out there. I'll just say that. Marshawn Lattimore, hamstring, didn't practice, second day in a row. Not a surprise. I told you I don't think he's playing this week. After seeing him Wednesday be DMP, I think my hopes were dashed because I initially had told you guys, Cowboys game is what I had circled on the calendar. As soon as I found out he was DMP Wednesday, I was like, yeah. And then listening to DQ on Monday when he said, hey, we'll check him out later in the week. Later in the week meant Thursday, Friday. I'm like, yeah, he's not playing. So, and I've said this too. What's the point of playing him next week? If you got the bye week, the following week, why not just let him, get all of that time, get fully healthy, and then be ready after the bye versus the New Orleans Saints. That's kind of where I'm at with it now at this point. We should be able to find a way to get through the next 2 games without Marshawn Lattimore and then have him fully healthy for the stretch run. So that's what I'm kind of looking towards now. But we'll see what happens. Cleveland Farrell, his customary Thursday day off, so nothing there to see. Noah Igbenogany limited with the thumb. I suspect that he'll be fine come Sunday, but still a source of concern for me. But we'll continue to monitor his progress. I think he's going to be fine. Austin Seibert, limited with the right hip. I still think they're going to give him time. If he doesn't show the ability to be fully functional with everything, I don't think they're going to push him either. I could see Zane Gonzalez being the kicker for one more week, and then Austin Seibert being back next week for the Titans game. Ben Sinnott was limited with an illness yesterday, full participant. That's good news. Everybody else full. And then Mike Davis, a surprise there with a DNP for personal reasons. And then Dante Fowler Jr. Also limited with the hip. And again, that's a big surprise that I don't like. Something else that's interesting here is Benjamin St. Juste is nowhere to be found on this injury report. Remember, he was dealing with something because he kept coming out of the Philadelphia Eagles game, and he's not on this list. That's interesting. I wonder if he's fine. I would assume he's fine. He's not on the list anywhere, but just something to note. Like, we've watched this man come out of the game, point to his hamstring, be in and out of the game. He did finish the game now, so there is that. But the only reason I bring it up is Mike Davis now, not being at practice today for a personal reason. Just something to consider because, again, what if Benjamin St. Juste has something happen? What we don't want is Emmanuel Forbes to have to see the field is what I'm getting at. So I just thought I'd bring that up. Hopefully everything is fine with Mike Davis and his personal situation. We get to the ops and the Dallas Cowboys in this particular case. Marquise Bell's shoulder, he's out for the season. He's going to have surgery. I think his season is done. Deron Bland, I'd done some deep diving into whether or not he was actually going to play in this game. And I wanted to see what the situation was for a lot of these players. And at first I got kind of, excited. They said that he was participating fully in a walkthrough on Wednesday, not really practice. So still a little bit, maybe more, a little bit more optimism for them, but maybe it wasn't realistic that he would play this week. But then he was a full participant today, and he said he feels no ill effects from the injury. So I think he's going to make his debut on Sunday, which, again, I'm not tripping. I'm not tripping at all. Brandon Cooks, he sounds like he's going to be back in the mix. I'm pretty sure he's going to play this week. Chuma Udoga, I think they're relying on him to come back and play because of the injuries that we're going to talk about here at the bottom. They're going to need him to step up because they don't want to put some of those guys that I saw getting in the game against the Texans in the game. So Chuma Udoga is going to be a big, and not that he's all that great, but he's an upgrade over, TJ Bass, who looked like he couldn't block anybody on Monday night against the Texans. Jake Ferguson, he's going to miss this game with that concussion. I can't see him playing at this point. Guyton's going to be fine for Sunday. Kendrick's going to be fine for Sunday. Marshawn Leland, another guy that was on IR, the rookie defensive end. I think he may play in this game. I think all signs point to him being back. CeeDee Lamb did not practice today. He's going to be fine and ready to play on Sunday. Jordan Lewis, neck. It sounds like he's going to play in this game. Hunter Luepke probably will be ready to go. Sounds like he'll be fine. Zach Martin and Tyler Smith and Nick Vigil all feel like guys that won't play tomorrow. It will be interesting if we see a limited for any of those offensive linemen. They then have an outside chance. Right now, it feels like neither one of those guys are going to play, which is good news for us because they already are a beat-up group up front. And to add those two guys to the mix would further weaken what is already an offensive line that's seeing its depth be tested. So I think we might be in pretty good shape there, but tomorrow will also be interesting. I won't count Zach Martin out. He's a warrior. He's been here, done that. He can miss all of the week's practice and play on Sunday. So we're not out of the woods there yet, but it's all signs are pointing towards those guys maybe not being able to go. So they're going to get a lot of guys back, but they may have a few guys out. But they're going to be their healthiest that they've been probably since maybe week 3 or 4. this coming week against us. Go figure, right? That's just our luck. But I'm not running away from anything. I'm not running away from any challenges. If we want what we want, we got to go out and we got to get it no matter what the circumstances are. And so looking forward to the challenge that's going to be posed in front of us on Sunday. That said, we heard from the two coordinators. We'll start with Kliff Kingsbury. Right out of the gate. Your boy jumped out and he asked the first question and he asked the last question. And both of them were like really like, gut punch questions, like right in your face. Like, okay, damn, he came with the thunder right out of the gate. I forgot Sam Fortier. That's one thing I can say. Sam Fortier don't give a shit. He's going to ask you whatever is on his mind. If it's the question that everybody wants to ask, but they're scared to ask, give it to Sam Fortier. He'll ask it, right? So right out of the gate, Sam Fortier says, what do you think is the root cause for the decline in the offense here lately? And Kliff was like, okay, damn. All right. I just sat down, but all right, so cool. Really, we've had to deal with some circumstances. Then he brought up, Jayden's injury, obviously. And then he said, we haven't had the practice time. So he kind of echoed the sentiments of DQ. And he said, hopefully we'll be able to kind of get back to some of the things that we have to do. And then the next question after that was, one of the next questions was, how do you go away from some tendencies that can become, how can you create tendency breakers and get away from some of the tendencies that, you may have created? And he said, well, what are you referring to in particular? And then this was Harrison of Locked On Commanders. And he was like, pretty much Terry lining up at the X on the left side of the field, essentially. And he was like, well, I'm not going to get into that specifically because I'm not giving away how, but he said, I can tell you this much, we got to get Terry McLaurin the ball. That's all I needed to hear, right? You don't have to tell me how you're going to do it. You don't got it. Like, I just need you to be aware that you didn't get him the ball enough. And I'm pretty sure you are aware that you didn't get him the ball enough, but I just need you to know, and I need you to acknowledge that. So if you do it again, you can't act like you didn't know, right? So that was always the problem with Eric Bieniemy, is he would never acknowledge shit. He would just, hey, I don't care about stats, all that bullshit. You don't care about winning then, because your best players affect the outcome of the game, okay? You get your best players the football, it's going to help you win the football game. It doesn't always work, but you have your best chance to win when your best players touch the football more times than not. And so hearing him say, no, we got to get Terry the ball. Like, we got to get him more involved. Music to my ears. You can stop right there. You don't have to explain yourself. That's all I needed to hear. He talked about, Jayden's injury and how he's gutted it out and how they did. He didn't say that they altered but him saying, I'm not going to get into that. Because if they didn't alter it, he would have just said, no, we didn't alter anything. He's been fine. And we had the whole playbook available to us. That's what he would have said. He didn't say that because that wasn't the case. So he told us without telling us that they altered their play calling because of Jayden's injury. That is no longer the case, though. He pretty much said, but that's behind us now. So I expect us to get back to seeing the Jayden that was electrifying and dynamic earlier in the season. He talked about, what he's learned from DQ and how he might take some of those things if he were to get another coaching opportunity. And I love the wording from him here, because he said, should I choose to do that again? It's not, should I get another opportunity, right? When he says, should I choose to explore, coaching, being a head coach again, it means that I'm not thinking about that. That's not where my head is. That's not what I'm really looking to do right now. I'm enjoying what I'm doing right now. And if I ever decide to go back down that road again, these are some of the things that I'll take from DQ. And one of the things he said is, just staying medium, right? Like being the same guy no matter what, wins, losses, being very personable, like, treating the players like, not necessarily like he wasn't treating players like humans before, but, being, more so geared towards the human element, like off the field, like forget about, the football player. What about you, the person? Like getting to know that guy and making that the most important thing. And then everything else will kind of fall into place. So he's like, I learned so much from DQ from that aspect. He talked about being a coach at Texas Tech and, going back to his alma mater, small town where football means everything and how much pressure that, put on him and the to win and this, that, and the third. And so he's like, he learned a lot from all of those experiences, and should he coach again, he'll have a different outlook and perspective having done it now with this staff and under DQ and seeing how he operates. He talked about the decline. So the last question, 48 asked the first question and then he asked the last question, which was about the decline of the offense. And Kliff was like, I don't know what you're talking about. What are you getting at? Like, you got to show me some proof. I mean, I don't know what kind of decline you're referring to. He said, I was going to run, the triple option. I mean, maybe, that's something different. I don't know. And then after that, everybody was laughing. Kliff got up and left like he was done. Like, I think that last question pissed him off. I love Kliff, man. I love his demeanor. I love Kliff. And neither one of our coordinators run away from the truth. If they F up, they own up to it. He was like, some of the plays against Philly, he's like, we wanted a better performance against the Eagles. Some of that's on me. Got to have better play calls. And he's owned up to some of his worst play calls of the season. I think that 4th and 2 was his worst play call of the season. And I think he knows it. And so he's like, we got to be better. And we'll, having the entire offensive line back, having Jayden back healthy, having Brian Robinson Jr. healthy. He's like, all of that helps us have the kind of practices and the repetition that we need to go out and be more effective. So he says, I think you'll see a better product coming up. So I feel really confident. Then you transition to Joe Whitt Jr. He talked about the defense and he's like, look, I haven't talked to you guys in 2 weeks. So if you want to talk about the Steelers game, you can. I'm not going to, talk about the Steelers game. I'm going to focus on Philadelphia. But if y'all ask me about Pittsburgh, I have no problems addressing that. But I'm really going to just stick to Philadelphia. He said, we played 53 minutes of good defense in the game. But unfortunately, it's a 60-minute game. And those last 7 minutes cost us the game. And that's on me, right? And he said, so, you love, I thought we played hard. We played the right way. We were physical. We just didn't finish. And if you are a fan of this team and you've watched every game this season, and if you've watched me this entire season, I've told you that the one thing I don't do with this defense right now is I don't trust them to finish a game. If we're going to win a game that's close, we're going to have to do it on offense. That's been my rallying cry all season. It started in week number 2 against the Giants. If not for a drop pass by Malik Neighbors, we lose that game, okay, because the defense could not get a stop when we needed them to. Luckily enough, he dropped that football, and we were able to then go down the field. The offense was able to finish that game, get us in the field goal range, and the field goal kicker, Austin Seibert, was able to stamp his status with this team with his 7th and final field goal of that game to win us that game. The next week, we were on defense. The Bengals were going up and down the field. We saw what was happening. We had a big lead. The defense couldn't hold it, and the offense had the ball up 5. We could have settled for a field goal, and instead they went for the jugular, and he hits Terry. We knew he had to score a touchdown there. Why? Because if he didn't throw that touchdown pass, if we didn't score a touchdown on offense, Joe Burrow was going down the field. They were going to score a touchdown and get the 2-point conversion. They were going to tie the game. It's going to go to overtime, and we were going to lose that game, and we knew it because the defense couldn't get stopped, right? So that was the week 3, discussion. And then you fast forward to the Bears game, right? Forget about that. Go to week 6 to the Ravens game, right? We just needed to stop. The offense had scored on 2 straight possessions to give us a chance. We're down a touchdown after being down. What was the score? 27 to 13. We were down in that game. 27 to 13. And we were on our deathbed, and the offense went down and scored a touchdown and cut it to 27 to 20. And we couldn't get the stop that we needed. We couldn't get the stop to get us the ball back and give us a chance. There was a bad defensive pass interference call that hurt us, but we couldn't get the stop, right? Can't trust the defense to get you the stop you need to either get the ball back to give you a chance or to preserve the lead, right? You got to do it on offense. Same thing in week 8. Against the Bears, right? All they had to do was get one stop, and we win the game against the Bears without the Hail Mary. They couldn't do it, right? So the offense had to bail us out with the Hail Mary. So even though the only reason we were even in that game was because of the defense, because the offense kept making mistakes. But again, a chance to win the game, and they couldn't do it. So the Giants game, right? Couldn't put the Giants away. Why? Because the defense couldn't get the stop to put them away. So what did we have to do? Had to have the offense run 4-minute offense and run out the clock and take knees at the end. Because if we gave it back to the Giants, they were going to score. So we couldn't afford to have to punt. We had to convert there, and we did because the defense doesn't close the show. So there was no doubt in my mind that same thing with against the Steelers, right? I mean, I could keep going. You see the trend here, right? That late game situations, this defense doesn't finish the job. Okay, give up the touchdown to the Steelers, and the offense couldn't bail us out that time. Even though I think we got jobbed and hosed with that spot, doesn't matter. The bottom line is we didn't, get it done defensively. We shouldn't have come to that, right? And week 11 against the Eagles, we couldn't finish the job. We were up 10-6, and the final 7 minutes of the game, we imploded defensively, and we were down 12-10, and even after we went for it on fourth down and didn't get it, we were deep in Eagles territory, right? Like they still had to go 75 yards, and they went 75 yards, bing, bang, boom, and just like that, they scored. So he talked about, being able to finish. He said a lot of people try to give us the excuse of being tired. He's like, I don't do excuses. We weren't tired. We talk about rolling with a deep crew. We didn't get it done. He says, I heard some people talking about, we were protecting the corners. He said, we didn't protect the corners at all. And if you watch the film, think about those A.J. Brown plays. There was no safety over the top, right? There was no safety when Jalen Hurts was throwing the ball to A.J. Brown and Mike Sainristil was breaking it up. There was no safety help. He was by himself. He was like, we didn't protect the corners in that game. And he got beat by Devontae Smith, and on one play did Mike Sainristil, and Jalen didn't see him. But outside of that, he was like, we didn't protect our corners. He said, it was a hell of a game by Mike Sainristil, by Benjamin St. Juste, by Michael Davis. We didn't protect our corners. We left those boys on the island. We were trying to stop the run. We knew what we had to do. We had to stop Saquon Barkley. He said on those plays at the end, we were in run defenses. We just didn't make the play. We didn't fit our gaps properly. We didn't get it done. That's on us, right? So he's like, no, and we're not making no excuses over here. We didn't get it done. And I'm hoping that some of those things change when Marshawn Lattimore enters the scene, because we can't get stops at the end of games. Right now, that is a real thing. That's not a false narrative. It's not some kind of made up situation. I just laid out for you every scenario this defense has had opportunities to, either close the game out on defense or get a stop to get us back the ball to give us a chance, and they couldn't do it in any of those situations. So that's just another one of those situations against Philadelphia where they were excellent early, couldn't do it late like they did against the Bears, and we almost lost the game against Chicago. We ultimately did lose the game against Philadelphia. And he said Mike Sainristil has been phenomenal. He's like, he doesn't play like a rookie. We had intentions of playing him inside, but he's been so good outside. He's like, I'm not going to worry about where Marshawn Lattimore is going to play when he comes back onto the field. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. So he reiterated what he said when we first traded for him. But I think we all kind of see where if you follow the breadcrumbs, right? If you follow the trail of what he's been saying, I think he's going to leave, which is what he should do. Leave Mikey outside, leave Noah inside, and just insert. And I think this game made it abundantly clear. If there was ever any doubt as to what needed to be done, Benjamin St. Juste coming in and out of the game, Michael Davis coming in and out of the game, and seeing Mike Sainristil hold up against A.J. Brown, I think it made it abundantly clear what needs to be done. Leave that young man outside, put Marshawn Lattimore opposite of him, leave Noah Igbenogany in the slot, and let's just roll, right? I think that's what they're going to ultimately do when that time finally comes. Whenever that time is, I think it's going to be the New Orleans Saints game after the bye, personally. But he talked about that. He talked about exchanging information with these Cowboys coaches. He's like, look, man, I've known Mike McCarthy for a long time. He said, we go all the way back to Green Bay. I was with him in Green Bay, with him in Dallas. We go way back. We had this thing called, across the hall, where I would, go across the hall and talk to him, and we would exchange things. He said, I did the same thing with Kellen Moore, right? So he's like, I knew Kellen was going to try to use some of that shit against me. And he said that Oos sack, right, where they did the little double reverse, try to throw the pass. He said the 49ers got us with it last year. So I knew they was going to try to, use it. And I guess, right, they got us in a zone, a zone fire blitz. But he was like, this time I switched it up a little bit, and so I got them. But sometimes they get us. Sometimes I get them. But he said I keep notes on every single thing that I tell somebody because you never know when that's gonna come back into play. And so he's detail oriented, he's thorough, he's meticulous. He's like, yo, I keep every presentation that I've ever done because you just never know when you're gonna run into somebody and they're gonna try to use that information against you. So, man, I love Joe Whitt Jr., man. Absolutely love this dude. He's like, you know what? I'm proud of this defense. I'm proud of the strides that they've made. But he said, when you get to late, into November, late December, and into January and hopefully February, you gotta be able to stop the run. And obviously, that is our Achilles heel right now. We do not stop the run well enough. And he was like, look, you asked me one thing we got to get better at. We got to stop the run. This shit ain't good enough. Every week we getting gashed. If you can run the ball, you can run it against us, right? And we may be good for 1 quarter, 2 quarters, 3 quarters, but rarely are we good for all 4 quarters. You're going to get us at some point. Whether you get us early like the Giants did, and then they can't get us late, and we make the adjustments, or you get us for 4 quarters, steadily over the course of a game like Arizona did, or you get us late like Baltimore did, or like Philadelphia did. You're gonna get us eventually. If you just keep running it, you're gonna get us eventually. We gotta clean that shit up, and that's pretty much what Joe Whitt Jr. said. We gotta be better at stopping the run. You want to get into the later months and play that kind of football when it gets cold outside. You gotta be able to stop the run, and we gotta be better. And I couldn't agree with him more. So guys are going to have to step up. And then he talked about, the blitz and the pass rush and how guys are rushing. I told you our pass rush has gotten better over the last probably 6 weeks or so. They've rushed cohesively as a unit. And he said, guys can't be selfish when you're rushing. And you can't rush and go off path because you think you can get to the quarterback. We got to rush as a group or it won't work. We can't be independent contractors. Remember, we used to hear that when we heard from Warren Sapp. When he showed up at camp over the summer a couple years ago, he's like, can't be independent contractors. Everybody's got to rush as a group. And he said, this group is doing a really good job of that. He talked about Dante Fowler Jr. and knowing that he could play at this level. He just didn't get the opportunities. He said that Kerrigan is a huge factor in him getting to the quarterback because he said Fowler would win. He just wouldn't be able to finish. And he said Kerrigan's been big with him on finishing, and that's why you've seen the difference. Fowler is leading our team in sacks right now with 8.5. So a lot of good stuff we got from the coordinators today, man. I really enjoyed listening to them. Let's go behind enemy lines and talk about these Dallas Cowboys. And you look at this. I've never seen this before. As a fan of this team, I've never seen a spread this big before. I don't think ever. Like, forget about who we're playing. We haven't had a spread more than 3 points in our favor over Dallas since 2007. Okay. And that was probably like maybe 4 or 5, right? That wasn't 10, right? Double digits. Like, what? I know Dallas has been awful. And that's, I hope we cover this. I expect to cover this, but that is a big number. I'd rather it be that than the 3.5 or the 4 that it was against the Giants when I was like, the Giants? Why the spread ain't bigger than that? And then it ended up being a close-ass game. We covered, though. But I'd rather it be this way. But, geez, Louise, 10-point favorites? I like it a lot. Man, times have changed, and I love it. So let's dive in. Go behind enemy lines and take a closer look at some of these numbers for both teams. We'll start with the good guys in Washington. So steadily, our offense is, dialed it back a bit. We were once number 1 in total offense, I believe. No, I don't think we were ever number 1. I think the highest we got was number 2 in the league in total offense. But, we went from 2 to 3, 3 to 4. I think we were 4 to 6. I don't know if we ever were 5th. But now you see 366.7 yards per game, 6th in the league, which is still damn good. Scoring offense, despite not scoring over 20 points last week against Philadelphia, we're still good for the 4th highest scoring offense in the league at 28 points per game. I hope we start to get back to that this week versus Dallas. Passing offense, 15th in the league, 218.7 yards per game. That's right where we need to be, right around the middle of the pack. We were edging towards the top 10 at one point at like 11, I think is the highest we maxed out at. But as long as we're in the top half of the league passing, we should be fine. Sacks allowed, We're 12th, tied for 12th with 24 given up. These last 2 weeks, Jayden has been sacked 3 times in each of the last 2 games, which is what pushed that number up. We were in the top 10 in the least amount of sacks given up. I think it's as high as 8th, tied for 8th. Obviously, we're outside the top 10 now, so we'd like to see that number go back down. Rush offense, at one point, we were the second best rush offense in football. That has cooled off considerably. We are now 6th in rushed offense, so we're still a top 6 rush offense in the league, but we've been top 5 all season long. This is the first time we've been outside of the top 5, probably since like week 2. But I want to see this team get back to running the football with the level of efficiency that allowed us to be a top 5 offense for most of the year. Third down offense, this has gone down week by week by week. We got to get better on third downs. We were exceptional. We were the number 1 third down offense for about a 3-week stretch. Then we met the Ravens, and we haven't been number 1 since, and it's kind of been a decline, and now we're down to 8th, right? So we got to get back to business. We're at 43% right now. We were up trending towards 60 at one point. Then it we cooled off considerably after the Ravens game, dropped us down to the 50s. We were high 51, right? Low 50s. And then, we dropped down under there and ended up in the high 40s. And now we're in the low 40s. So we got to get our act together. All right. We got to get better on third downs. One of the things, we didn't punt. Remember, we didn't punt for, a 3-week stretch, essentially. So we were killing it on third downs. We got to get back to that. Total defense, we're now 18th in the league. We were hovering around the 20s, 21, 23. We're in that neighborhood. We're now down to 18th. So this defense is steadily improving every week. 334 yards. 335 yards per game given up. Scoring defense, 14th in the league at 22.1 points per game. We've been right in that range. We're really killing it from a scoring defense perspective. I love it. Now we just got to be consistent with that, and then we got to start scoring the football again. Pass defense, 5th in the league. 184.9, so 185 yards per game. Again, we continue to live up to that billing. The Eagles weren't really super successful throwing the football against us, so we continue to be good there. Sacks, we're 8th with 29. I love that. Our rush has gotten better and better and better every week, and I love where we are there. Rush defense, 30th in the NFL, so we're 3rd worst in the NFL, giving up 150 yards a game. That has to change, and that's literally what defensive coordinator Joe Whitt Jr. just said. Like, we cannot continue to get gashed on the ground like this, or we won't go very far once we get to the postseason. You have to be able to stop the run this time of the year. Third down defense, we're 26th in the league. We've been giving it up here lately. The Eagles were very successful on third downs against us. I think they were like 9 of 14, which is ridiculous. The Steelers the week before, I think they were hovering around 50 at like 8 of 16 or something like that, 7 of 14. We got to tighten up on third downs defensively, man. This shit's getting out of hand. We got to be better. So right now we're giving up 44% on third downs, 26th in the NFL. That's not good enough. That's not nearly good enough. Time of possession, 17th right now. We were once a top 5 time of possession team. We are now out of the top half of the league in time of possession because we've been getting our ass kicked on third downs defensively and offensively. And so this has to change. We have to be better offensively. We need to possess the football. That is tied to the run game and the success there. So we just got to get back to being who we are. We haven't been who we needed to be here lately, and it's showing in these statistics. Turnover differential, we're +5. Obviously, we turned it over once, didn't get any back. So this is the first time in like 5 or 6 weeks where we didn't win the turnover battle in a game. And obviously, that's not who we've been here lately. So let's get back to forcing turnovers and taking care of the football. But to be tied for 7th in that department, +5, is really good. But let's try to push this up to double digits. This is a week where we can see that number skyrocket. And this is one of those weeks, much like we talked about against Carolina. This is one of those weeks where you can push it up, go get you 2 or 3 turnovers, take care of the football, and be +2 or +3 after this game and push this number to 7 or +8, right? Speaking of which, let's take a look at the ops and where they sit in all these numbers. Cowboys are 20th in total offense. So they're not a very good offense. And this was with Dak Prescott as well. This is just not a Cooper Rush thing. They weren't very good with Dak Prescott under center. Scoring offense, 24th in the league. They're averaging roughly 19 points a game. So again, they're not, obviously they scored 10 this Monday against Houston, 6 the week before against Philadelphia with Cooper Rush. So we need to hold them down. We need to continue that trend and not allow them to score the football. Passing offense, tied for 7th in the league at 240 yards per game, roughly 241 yards. So they're throwing it well, and we're stopping the pass. So I don't know if something necessarily has to give, but we'd like to exert our will on them in that department and see those passing numbers come down quite a bit. Cooper Rush threw it well on Monday, necessarily threw it a lot better than he did. Again, he had 40 some odd yards against Philadelphia in his first start 2 weeks ago. Obviously threw for over 300 yards, I think, against the Texans on Monday night. So a lot better, but we need to cool his ass off, right? Sacks allowed. They're tied for 22nd in the league with 29 sacks given up. And I think we can add to that total. Cooper Rush is not a mobile guy. He's not looking to run. I think we have a chance to really get after him. Rush offense, they're 31st in the league. That's their Achilles heel is they can't stop the run and they can't run the football. They're 31st in the league, averaging 82 yards a game. This is an opportunity for our rush defense to get right and not look back, right? Shut them down, running the football, and don't look back. Just keep getting better every week after that, right? This is an opportunity to do that. Third down offense, they're 25th in the league at 35.6%. So they're not great on third downs. This is an opportunity for our third down defense to improve. Get off the field on third downs, all right? Stop the run on early downs. Put them in long down and distance situations. Get off the field on third downs. This is the opportunity to do that. Total defense, they're 27th in the NFL, giving up 365.7 yards per game, so roughly 366 yards a game. You know what to do, right? We're one of the better total offenses in the league. Show it. They're one of the worst total defenses in the league. Show it, right? Scoring defense, they're giving up right around our average. We average 28 a game. They're giving up 29 a game. Okay, let's make it happen then, okay? If that's what they want to do, let's help them be who they are. They give up 30 a game. Let's go score 30 plus. All right. Pass defense, they're 19th in the NFL. We're 15th in the league. So it's right around there, right? Do what we do. We get like 214 a game. They give up 214 a game. Okay, that sounds good. Let's make it happen, right? Sacks. They've gotten 24 this season. They're tied for 21st, but they didn't have Michael Parsons for a huge chunk of the season. So, and DeMarvion overshown is a problem. I've talked about him already. So that we got to account for those two guys, particular in the pass game. Rush defense, their rush offense is 31st. Their rush defense is 31st. They're giving up over 150 yards a game at 151. That's what we need to exploit. We need to really kill them in the trenches, offensively and defensively. We need to get after them. That's where this game can be won with ease. Make it happen. All right, third down defense, they're 11th with giving up 35% on third down. That's not bad. That's not bad. They're almost a top 10 third down defense, and they've been really good here of late at getting off the field on third down. So we got to do a good job of establishing ourselves on first or second down and getting into manageable down and distances and then converting, which is something we didn't do on Thursday, even though we were in some manageable down and distances, specifically on third down. Time of possession, they're 28th in the league because they can't run the ball. So when you don't run the ball effectively, when you're not good on third down offense, you don't sustain drives, you don't sustain offense, you don't win time of possession. So this is an opportunity for us to really have a big time of possession in our favor in this game and kind of get back to what we were earlier in the season. And then, as you can see, this is one of the biggest reasons why the Cowboys are 3-7. Turnover differential, they're tied for 30th in the league at -11. Those are some numbers from us last year where we couldn't generate turnovers and we were giving it away at an alarming rate. That's what the Cowboys are doing this year. We got to take advantage of it. Cooper Rush has been turning the shit over in both of his starts these last 2 weeks. He's been turning the ball over. We got to make that continue to be a thing and push that number up to -14 this week. Push our number up to +8. Like, that should be the goal, is to come out of this thing at +2, +3 in the turnover differential category after this game and allow the Cowboys to continue to see their descent in that category and help them be the dead last team in turnover differential. That's what we should be aiming for after this week's contest. So you see all of the places where we can take advantage of this Cowboys team. They're ripe for the picking. They're there for the taking. But we got to go out and we got to play the kind of football that we played earlier this season that lends itself to doing the things that the Cowboys don't do well or don't stop. And so I think those opportunities present themselves. You see the numbers. That's who they are. They're going to get some guys back. They're still that team. And they still got Cooper Rush at quarterback. They still can't run the football. Rico Dowdle is still their lead running back. They still got all of these injuries on the offensive line. We have to take full advantage of the opportunities that will be presented to us in this game. I like us in this game. We'll talk more about it tomorrow, but everything's there that we need. Now we got to take advantage of it. And I love that we're healthier. I love that we're getting the practice time we need. I love hearing from the coordinators. There's a really good vibe right now. I'm feeling it. I really, truly am. I wasn't feeling the vibe. You know, I was feeling that the bounce back against the Eagles, but the vibe was off because guys were tired. You could sense it. You know, there was definitely a sense of, man, we're exhausted. That's gone. Guys are rejuvenated and they're ready to get after it. And I like us in this game, and I like us big. And those numbers make me feel even better about our situation this upcoming Sunday. But it's going to be tough. Don't think for 1 second Dallas is going to lie down. I've been listening to them talk, and a lot of their conversations surround there's no quit in this team. They're going to get some guys back that look to bring some energy, like Brandon Cooks and Deron Bland. Those guys are looking to bring energy. So we got to come with it. We got to bring it early and often and put those guys out of their misery quickly. If you do that with a team like Dallas, who's already talking, I don't know if you saw Michael Parsons and Trayvon Diggs on Parsons' podcast that he does for Bleacher Report. They're talking about next year. Trayvon Diggs is talking about, hey, we could be back next year. They're already talking about 2025. Okay, well, let's help them pack their shit and get Cancun on 3, right? So I like this situation that we're in. Now we just got to take care of business. We got a chance to be 8-4 for the first time since 1996. Let's make it happen. So I'm going to be back tomorrow with keys to victory, all of that good stuff. And hopefully you'll join me tonight later on for Thursday Night Football overtime, Steelers and Browns. But until then, you guys have a good one. Take care. God bless. See you next time.
Here comes the Diesel. Here comes the Diesel. There's the snap, hand to Riggins. Good hold. He's got the first down to the 40. He's gone.